and welcome to the final episode of season 1 of Our Greener Pastures. That was very heavy for me to say just because this has been such a labor of love. Like, I had the best time speaking to people, learning from people that are kind of my friends, to be fair. Just learning so much about what relocation truly is like for different people at different points in their life. And I just hope these stories have impacted you in one way or another. This is going to be a bonus episode, and my guest today is Tofa. Tofa talks about his relocation journey and where he is now, the things that made him leave Nigeria, how he came to Canada, how he settled, the things he went through, the normal stories like people go through. But every story is unique, and this is also a unique story and a unique take on relocation. So listen, enjoy, and thank you. All right. So my guest today is Tofa, and Tofa has been in Canada for over a decade. And so we're just going to get into his story and learn one or two things from him. Hi, Tofa. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon, Tele. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Oh, thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast and share like your journey.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I really wanted to do this. Initially I sort of had cold feet, but then one of the things I believe is that history is typically written or should be written by. Oh, sorry, let me take that back. History is always written by winners. That's one of the.
Mm,
And if you look at journey of immigrants, right? It's like you are fighting against something, some sort
yeah.
of system, right? Whatever we describe that system, be it systemic racism, a new culture, new environment, you're just fighting with the system. And so, going back to the quote that says history is always written by winners, um, if we let history get written by those that win, and when I say those that win, if the system wins, technically, the system is a winner. And those that write histories, it could be journalists, it could be research institutions that are biased. If we let them write those stories for us, they would tell these stories that we don't get to tell. And
Mm,
a lot of immigrants, like yourself, like me, and every other one you've spoken to throughout this journey, um, do have stories to tell. And if we keep quiet, if people like me, people like you keep quiet, the system will tell our stories for us, and
yeah.
generations on and those coming after us wouldn't get to see the full picture of what is really happening and what immigration is all about, right? So when I say tell the stories, for example, they tend to give like a lopsided a lopsided story, right? For example, you would see them talk about number of immigrants that are not successful or international students,
Mm,
right? Um, but then, in the process of those of people not making it or not making it out of the system, or the system chewing them, once the system chews you, you don't get to tell your story. And since you don't get to tell your story, somebody tells it for you, and sometimes it's not always the best. So when
yeah.
immigrants like us are telling stories, we are speaking for ourselves. We're letting people come in, people that are yet to come, or children unborn, to also listen to these stories and see how everyone's journey is unique. And
I actually love that you said that. Like, as in, even me, the owner of the podcast, could never. I didn't think about it that way. Like, history is written by winners. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because that's part of the reasons why I started this podcast. Because it's like, even I mean, I moved to Canada 2 years ago, and I'll tell you for a fact, like, I didn't have like a full picture of what it was like. Like even people that relocated like earlier, like you don't really hear people tell you the true story of what it's like to
mhm,
be an immigrant. And that's part of the reasons why I started this podcast, to kind of give people a very full picture. Like, obviously everybody's story is not the same, but the truth is, like, at the core, we are all here for the same thing: a better life, greener pastures from where we're coming from. but the journey might not be the same. Some people experience like real obstacles that they had to overcome and things like that. And I just want people to know, like, obstacles will always be there. Like, obstacles being there doesn't mean success is not sure, success is not like exactly. So that's part of the reasons why. And like, I took my time to really pick my guests, like to find people that, to be fair, actually inspire me personally, like to talk to them, because everybody that I've spoken to, I've learned something new about like what's being an immigrant is, and I hope we are able to also learn from your own story. So,
Hopefully.
like, the first question I like to ask when we start the podcast is like, at what point did you decide like you were going to leave Nigeria? Like, did something happen, or was it always your plan that Nigeria is not for you?
Yeah, that's a very good question there. So I can take you as far back as my teenage years. So I growing up, I had the opportunity to visit United States during summer a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times, and I saw how different it was, especially when you go for those summer breaks and you come and you get back to Nigeria. You get to the airport and the um, as you get out of the plane, I don't know if you ever experienced this, the heat wave just slaps you back to reality that,
Like when you get
oh,
back to Nigeria, right?
yeah, like that
Yes.
gets like that heat wave just I feel like everyone has experienced this in one form or the other, like hits you back to reality to say welcome to your home country. But
Yeah.
then what made that decision for me, circa I think around 20 between 2011 and 2013. So post NYSC on during university days, I had my hands in multiple pots, right? Being an enterprising individual, I ventured into multiple businesses, and I just saw how different it was doing business in Nigeria. Doing, if you are doing any dealings, you require twice the effort to get things done.
Yeah.
And so post NYSC, I the reality sort of dawned on me that whatever decision you make right now, the ball is in your court, basically. Everyone, typical Nigerian or an average Nigerian, you get to go to school, standards. Your parents
Yeah.
sort of make that decision for you, right? Oh, you have to go to school. Sometimes they even tell you the course you have to study, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once I finished serving and I saw what was available. So while I was studying and while I was in uni and I finished studying, during that period of time, I sort of had an experience of doing business full flesh, right? Like dealing with people, dealing with Nigerians, dealing with the system. And um, I sort of had that experience that wasn't so favorable for me. Um, And also before then, I always had that passion of I always wanted to live abroad. I wanted to live outside Nigeria, but I never knew how. So whenever I go for summer and come back, I always wanted to just like, how do I go back and not come back here again, right? Or whenever it's coming to the end of my summer vacation, I'm like, I don't want to go back home. But then you always have to go back because you're going to be an illegal immigrant, right? So just doing your thing, go to uni, and like post NYC, that was like reality setting. Like you have to do something with your life. What do you really want to do? And the opportunity came to either you go study in the US or you go to Canada, and Canada seemed favorable out of all the available options. Why do I say Canada felt favorable? Because of um, uh, the immigration journey was sort of easy as
Yeah.
compared to other countries, and that was when I was like, okay, you know what? If I stay in Nigeria and I keep doing what I do, I need a lot of capital. And to do business in Nigeria, you need capital, you need connections. And when I compare that to like doing business outside Nigeria, right? As I said, I had experience going to the
Mm-hmm.
States, so how
Yeah.
it was doing business there. Um, I felt like it was so different in Nigeria, and I had to give myself the opportunity. And also, for a better life, right? Standard of life, quality of life. And so Canada was the option, and That was around that period, around 2013. That's when I decided to leave Nigeria.
Wow, that's like, I don't even know. Like, I'm just thinking, like, I could not have imagined myself just finishing NYC and I'm thinking of what next to do with my life and I'm thinking of traveling. The reason why I'm saying that is like, at that point, you must have been so young. Like, do you understand?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so young, like average 23, 24,
That's
right?
young. Like, that.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you think about it, at 23, you're already thinking you're going to, because obviously, if you're coming to Canada, most people, Canada is far from Nigeria. One,
Hmm,
a lot of people don't have family here. I guess what I'm trying to find out is like, were you not scared? Like, there's the fear of the unknown. Like, I'm just going to this other country to pursue a better life at that age.
yeah. So I do understand what you mean by fear of the unknown. Remember that I've had experience traveling by myself for summer vacations, and
Yeah.
I I always I wanted that freedom, honestly,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
from
It's different
home.
if it's different, because I'll tell you for a fact, even me myself, when I was relocating, like,
Yeah.
and this was like, I was already in my 30s when I relocated, right? I relocated about 2 years ago. I had a husband, I had a child. I was
Mm,
still very scared. Like, in my mind, it's like, when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to start all over again. And it's not
yeah.
even necessarily just like we work or anything. It's like start your life all over again. Now you need to find, like, even something as little as, oh, finding a church that I'll feel, you're already
Fitting.
used to,
Yeah.
that you fit into. You're already used to the life you have somewhere. And I could not have imagined doing that at 23. But since you were looking for that freedom, it must have been probably exciting for you at that point.
Yeah, it was exciting, and don't also forget that. Um, remember, I said like right from when you were born up into average middle class Nigerian family, right from when you were born to say university, every decision is being
It
made
has
for
been
you.
made
Right?
for you, yes, absolutely.
Say you're gonna go to school as a toddler, you don't have a choice, right? You
Yeah.
go to primary school, technically, you don't have a choice. Even university, that's when you begin to have a choice. But then your
Even the
parents are
choice
still
self is still
right. Your
hinged on
parents are
your
sort of
parents. Yeah.
yeah, like to make sure that they're making the best decisions for you.
Yeah.
But then post university was when my parents sort of started giving us that freedom to make decisions by ourselves, right? And I kind of knew at that point in time that whatever decision I make now is, what they say, the way you
It's
lay your
make or
bed
break. Yeah.
is make or break, right? If you make
Yeah.
any, like, this is how your life is. Whatever decision you make with your life right now sort of decides what the trajectory of your life basically, and you
Mm.
sort of have to be careful. And I would say I was quite intentional about it, right? I wouldn't say I was scared, but I would say I was more of I was excited, right? Because uh, you've not really done anything. If you think about it, you've not really made any mistakes. You've not really made
Mm.
any major decisions in life. You have the opportunity to go to another country to start afresh. Um, and to me, I just like, okay, I'm going to go here. I'm going to try to study. Which was the plan, right? Going through the education path. Um, and I was going to try to make something out of it, right? So I was sort of looking forward to the journey into that, you know, newfound
Yeah.
freedom, to start my life afresh, to make decisions, and to see what comes of it, right? And that was one of the. So I wouldn't say I felt fear. I just feel I would say I felt more excited uh, to get on this journey and leave Nigeria, right? Because I've always been frustrated by Nigeria one way or the other, either by the police profiling you for no reason, or
Mm.
just stress that was involved in making your day-to-day life, or running your day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
You go out, you get back, there's no light, you have to figure out the generator. You get to the generator, there's no fuel, you have to go buy fuel.
Mm.
You have to worry about your security at night. You have to, like, it was just a lot. And when you compare that to like other countries or sinner climes, I just felt like I had a better chance or a better shot of making it um, outside than
Outside
Nigeria.
Nigeria, yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, once you finish NYC, it's like you handed the new full scap sheet of how you want to write your story, right? And if I'm asked, if you ask me where do I want to write this story, if I choose Nigeria or any other place, I would have chosen any other place than Nigeria because I felt like the odds are stacked in my favor, would be stacked in my favor, no
Yeah.
matter what I experience.
Yeah, you're right. Because I would say when I finished NYC, I myself I started a business in Nigeria, and some of the business was successful, to be fair, like in the beginning. But I'll tell you, most of the issues we faced, like most of the issues I faced running that business, it really had nothing to do with like the processes I had in place or finding customers. That was never the issue. It was always one thing with maybe like the government has a new policy, because the business was like we had to, in the business I was doing, we had to like ship things into Nigeria weekly. So we had to deal with customs a lot. And then unfortunately, during Buhari's administration, there was like a law that was passed with the border and bringing things from the border. And you know how Nigeria is, people take advantage of those
Yep.
things.
Mm-hmm.
It was those were the things that really, really affected the way. It was never, oh, I don't have customers, oh, my customers. It was never that. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely right. You're definitely right. So now let's just talk about like when you were planning to leave Nigeria, like were you carrying like your friends along, your parents along, your family along? Like did they know what your plan was, and what was their reaction to knowing that you're leaving Nigeria?
My parents have always been carried along right from the get go.
Hmm.
I would say I have really a super supportive parents. Whatever decision you're making, as long as you're not stealing and killing someone.
Yeah,
So big ups to my parents there. Very supportive parents. Friends, just I would say very few close friends sort of knew the plan, and some of them I told them like probably a week before I left. Some really close friends sort of knew throughout the whole journey, the plan and all the plans I was making. Um, but how did my friends take it? I wouldn't say anyone took it anyway. One was just like I think a lot of people were surprised that Canada
that
like
you're
why.
leaving. Yeah.
Like it was either because most times people were either going to the UK or they were going to the United States. For
Yeah,
me, United States was a no because from visiting as a teenager, I sort of knew that the pathway to citizenship was sort of a very long and convoluted journey, and I really did not want to explore that. And I sort of had a friend that said, "Oh, Canada was way easier." But then, just going back to like how my friends took it, I think everyone was just like, "Okay." And that was, I think, also probably that's one of the reasons why you didn't want to share it to everyone because you are going to the unknown, right?
exactly. You don't know what
Every Nigerian is
exactly.
always sort of fearful because if I'm leaving, because the whole idea was to go for a year, do the program. I wasn't so convinced about staying back then, but although I knew that that was a pathway, I was so, I would say I was so, as a young man, you're so, I think I would say I was more bullish. I would say, yeah, that's the word. I was bullish on Nigeria at that point in time. Like, oh, let me go there, get some experience, see what it looks like there. And if it still don't work out, I will come back and being an enterprising individual, I will figure out things and come back to Nigeria and make it work. So just in case I go and it does not work, right? So just tell very few people. Um, and I think that was how I'd say communicated it to a few friends or a few people, family, only very close family, just like my nuclear, my parents, my siblings, um, my sister, my brother, like everyone would know in your household, right? That you're making such a decision. But then for friends, I would say a handful, and for those listening that I still slighted that I didn't tell them, it didn't concern you. What's your
The reason why I always ask this question on the podcast is because like I hear a lot. Like it's a big thing that people say, my friend just traveled, they didn't tell me they were traveling. Do you understand? Like people like this thing has destroyed relations, like serious relationships, like friend, like that you didn't tell. And me, I'm like, I just believe people need to just understand better. Like I'm going into the unknown literally. I'll tell you,
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. When we were going to relocate, we
yeah.
the first time we were going to relocate, we did a whole thing. Like we had a going away send forth party. I told people,
Mm.
and this was during COVID. And I'll tell you, 3 days before we relocated, we had sold everything in our house. Like you don't understand. The house was empty. We had packed up all our things. And then we just get a message from the airline that due to COVID restrictions, new immigrants and cannot come into the country.
Wow.
And then as much as it was like it was beyond my control, it was beyond anybody's control. There was something behind my mind that was saying, "Oh, you've gone to make this big noise. That's why it's not working out." Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's because you've gone to announce yourself.
Yeah, I
That's why it's not
understand.
working. And after then, it took us about like a whole year before we were able finally
Wow.
to able to finally relocate. Do you understand? And I'll
Mm.
tell you, at that point when we were finally relocating, I didn't tell anybody anything. I just left, and some people were upset. Even there were people in Canada I didn't even tell that, oh, I've landed. Do you understand? Like, because I'm just like, okay, let me try and find my feet first.
Yeah, so to be let's be realistic here. I sort of understand how people would feel. Just think about it, like if
Yeah,
your friend, let me see, these days friends, the word
it's the
friend
people
is
use it very loosely. Yeah,
loosely. Let's say I think of you as my acquaintance, my friend, and I see you on Friday, which was very common then, right? I see you on Friday. We probably had banter together on Friday. We shared a few drinks together on Friday, and on Monday you call me to ask me something, probably an information that you think that I do
yeah,
uh, know or have, and my number is not going through, and you're like, probably you try me later, maybe network issues, and then a week after you notice my number is not going through, and only for you to find out that
yeah.
I
In a
left
new
the country.
country.
It's sort of it's weird, right? And I sort of understand. I feel, especially for friendships, while people would feel that way, that or they feel slighted that how come you're leaving? I just saw you on Friday, you didn't tell me. Yeah, I understand,
Mm,
but I think um reasons why a lot of people do that was just because of that fear of the unknown. In case it doesn't work out, I can just come back and just fit in, right? And not everyone
easily.
knowing my story, right? Easily, and not everyone knowing my story, right? And I think you can do better by communicating it in a different way. But then at the same time, like at that point in time, as you say, what they say about you know better, you do better, right? But at that point in
Mm,
time, that's the only thing you knew, right? To say,
yeah,
I just want to go quietly and come back. And
yeah.
sometimes people might not even notice that you're not
You're not
around until
around.
a very long time.
I
So
mean, it's the fear of the unknown is there, but there's also, how I'm not sure how to explain this properly. Like one of my friends was telling me something that happened to him, like he relocated and everything. He had a good job in Nigeria. Like people first of all did not understand, like, what do you mean you're leaving this job to go and start all over again, blah blah blah. And when he came here, he had a tough time like finding a job, settling in and all of that. He told people quite all right, but people kept on, how it's not a bad thing, right? People keep on
mhm,
messaging you, how far have you gotten a job, how far, like what.
yeah, that's an
And
additional pressure on you, right?
additional pressure, yes, like, oh, how far have you figured this out, have you. And he was like, he was making him feel like even the pressure he wasn't feeling before, all of a sudden you now start thinking, hey god, am I behind, did I make a mistake, should I have done this, do you get, like, I just think both parties, both the people relocating and the people not, everybody just needs to understand, like, it's a very difficult it's a very difficult situation, it's a very difficult decision. Like, just let people be and give people grace. If somebody has been your friend for a while and they've not acted like this, is a very unique just let them be, right? They'll tell
Hmm.
you, and it doesn't mean because I don't tell you does not mean I don't think we're good friends. Doesn't mean, do you get?
Yes, yes,
It doesn't
yes.
mean that. It just means like I'm
Yeah.
scared.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And yeah, I agree with you 100%. Everything you said there, and We just need to understand that, I would share with you at the right time,
At the right time,
right
exactly.
things. But that was always the only very few, like for example, me, very few friends that sort of knew I was leaving, they would check on you like how far, how is it there, and when you come to Canada now compared to Canada then, at least now they are like house parties, they are, you know,
Yeah.
games nights.
Mm,
There was nothing like that when I came. So you basically spent the time, most of the time, on the phone with your so-called friends,
back
right?
home, yeah.
Back home, or yeah, whenever you have the opportunity to just talk to them, just to because you are bored, right? And then you get to tell them later. It's like, hey, I just said I should tell you I'm here. I'm like, when did you leave? I'm like, it just happened. And also, I feel like because you were not so sure of the outcome of things, just sneaking out, just to make it to canvas it as my typical vacation or yearly vacation.
Yeah.
It was easy to just canvas it as that, right? And maybe it's just been extended. Yeah, this guy is spending 6 months. I think my first program was for like 9 months to a year. So I'm like, yeah, you can just go in under the radar for like a year. If things don't work out, if I don't get a
You
work
just go
permit,
back quietly, yeah.
I'll just go back quietly and figure my things out. But yeah, that's basically um, it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one, but please, you people, don't be angry with your friends that don't tell you they relocate. It's not
People
fair.
at the
Like,
end of the day,
just
everyone will be fine. Everyone will be
did
okay.
you fam, everybody will be okay at the end of the day. So now let's talk about like landing in Canada and like, so when you landed, like you went into school immediately, like you already had your admission and all of that.
Yes, I already had my admission. Came in via piercing. So school had like a full program. I don't know if it's still like that now, but
Mm,
then there was you had to plan your accommodation your transportation from um the airport to your accommodation or your whatever planned
yeah,
accommodation. Me, my planned accommodation was very funny. Was residence, right? I stayed in residence for the first semester in college,
yeah,
and so it was pretty straightforward. Get to the airport. I was sort of used to all of that, right? Get to the airport. I was just still excited, right? Like I'm gonna be myself for a full year, right? And also, just I think I mentioned it, but one of the reasons I sort of chose Canada was the fact that it was really far away from my parents' reach, quote and unquote.
really.
Yeah, like I can say, yeah, I can authoritatively say that I was the first to come to Canada in my family. Please, oh, that might not be true. In case they should not go and call family in my head. Well, like, my parents were sort of used to going to either the UK or United States. I had a
Mm,
sister in Chicago at the time, um, but I just wanted to go to a place whereby they would not just like, they can't just up on it. Like
you are
at that
different
point in
though,
time, they
because
can't
just
just.
thinking about this thing you are saying, Tofa, you are different. Because at that age, at like 23 years old, you are
I'm
different.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. If you say so, but I just wanted to be in a place whereby I would do my thing. Nobody's singing in my ear. Nobody's sort of questioning your. I wanted to have that clear mind, clear thoughts, being able to make decisions by myself without any necessary
Like
input.
things that you really want to do. I'm not doing it
Wanted to,
because
yes,
somebody
I'm
said,
not doing it
yeah,
because of
I
anybody.
get what you mean.
Because if you look, as I said, like maybe um indirectly I was sort of running away from that reach of my parents, whereby I was sort of fed up of them making decisions for you at every point of your life, right? And this was
Mm,
the only time I was going to make a decision myself. So I wanted it to be void of, daddy or mommy's ideas. It's like, I'm going to do this thing myself. This is what I think is right for me. So let me just face it with my full chest,
but to have
right?
that kind of mind, like I think my thing is what I'm like, I understand you, but what I'm struggling with is, again, I just know the way we are raised in Nigeria. Do you get?
Yeah.
I'll tell you for a fact, even me at my old age right now, I still, it's not like I wait for my parents to make decisions for me, but if I'm going to make a major decision, it's something like I still feel like I'll run by them. It's just
Mm-hmm.
recently, and I'll tell you, relocating has made me kind of for lack of a better word, I'll say it has made me grow up a little bit to be able to like, guy, this is your life. What are you doing? Do you guys make your
Mm-hmm.
decisions for yourself and stick by those decisions you made for your own life?
Mm-hmm.
But like for you to say at that age, like you were ready to, oh yes, I'm ready to go out in this world and be my own man. That's something.
Yeah, it's not
That's
necessarily
very
about,
bold.
yeah, it's not necessarily about going out and being young, but like I just want to do my thing. I want to go to a place whereby I'm free. I can do whatever I want. You didn't have praying eyes on you. You didn't have anyone
Yeah.
um forcing you to do things a certain way, right? I just wanted to go out there and figure it out. And also, I had friends that were here since after secondary school, right? That told me that,
Mm.
hey, just come here.
This is
If
what
you
life
come,
is like here.
this is what life is like. Life is like here. If you can believe it and you can imagine it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
um Go to school, get out of college, you will get a work permit. If you and then you get a work permit, you can easily get a job. When I compare that to Nigeria I was coming from, I knew it wasn't easy to get a job. First of
Yeah.
all, there are like a handful of companies that
Can
um
even employ you to start
can
with.
employ you. If you're not working for a multinational or a telecoms company,
Or
you
in the
most likely
bank. Mm.
yeah, you most likely end up working in the bank, right?
Yeah.
So those options, you didn't have those plethora of options open to you. But yeah, it's like, oh, you can work anywhere, right? And I'm sure you would have noticed it that if you look at all of your friends in your circle, and they all, if everyone tells you exactly where they work, some of them you've never heard them before,
Yeah.
right? And these are companies making like
Serious money.
millions of dollars
Yeah.
every year, but you never heard of them. Unlike in Nigeria, if it's not Shell or Mobil or Elf
Yeah.
or Total or Chevron, or MTN, or like she just had this handful of
Yeah.
companies where you go and start a career. But yeah, I had friends that had told me that if you can just get out of school, just get your resume and apply, you get a job. I'm like, really? No need for aptitude test? Like, no, just
You do
apply.
your
Just
regular interview. Yeah.
yeah, right. So those are the kind of things that were intriguing to me. That I'm like, I really want to come here and try things out, and hopefully things will
It's
work
a
out for me.
workout. Mm.
Yeah.
But things worked out, Sha. So, but we're getting to that.
Well,
But we're getting to that. So, how was it like? Like after now you've come, like with the mindset you had, I was settling down. Like, did you struggle with anything when you first landed? And also, how would you compare like going to school in Nigeria and going to school here? Like, which do you prefer? And things like
oh,
that.
so I'm sort of. I think we are sort of asking for like challenges I experienced when
Yeah,
when I
when you
came.
first landed, yeah.
When I first landed, typically because I've been to, spent most of my, teenage years visiting New York, I sort of knew how, or I was sort of used to a specific transit system. Even Nigeria, I'm
Yeah.
used to our transit system that if you are going somewhere, say for example, you are going from Ejigbo to Lekki in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, or Ikotunegbe to Lekki, there is there's already like the route has already been planned. Like you find your way to Oshodi. Anywhere you are going, find your way to Oshodi. When you get to Oshodi, you get a bus, right? Or you get a driver to take you, or you drive yourself. Like
Yeah.
it's already been mapped out. But coming to this part, or coming to Canada, and I realized that um the transit system was so different. And not to finger point to anyone, or the urban planners of Canada, but basically the way it was planned around the existing population, the existing infrastructures. Right?
Yeah.
If you notice it, I don't know if it has changed now because I've not taken a transit system in a very long time, but the way I could imagine it was that the transit system was basically was located in places that were densely populated.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things I observed is like if you are moving within those, say for example, you are living in GTA. If you are
Downtown.
moving within GTA, it's not so difficult. But the time you try to move from a densely populated area or a residential area to like a commercial area, it became
Mm.
it was
It
really
becomes a
tough.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was really, that was like a shock to me. I was like, is this America and Canada? They're basically neighbors. Why is it so
Why
different?
is it so
But
different?
then
You're
if you go
right.
to America, there's some rural areas, or there are some cities you go to, the train system is not so perfect. But for Canada, then the frequency, for example, the frequency at which the buses came, if you miss your bus, um you are almost guaranteed that you might spend another 30-45 minutes waiting for another bus. Now imagine if there was inclement weather at that point in time. You are
Yeah, you're
basically stuck
standing in
in
the
the bus.
cold. Oh, yeah,
Another
yeah.
very intriguing thing for me was, I don't know if you had that issue when you came, but I'm sure Google Map has improved, like over 11 years. It has improved tremendously. But east versus west, north versus south. So you get on the bus, or you're trying to get on the bus, and it says head east. I'm like, what the hell is east?
What
What
is
is east?
East?
I'm looking at my phone and I'm turning, and yeah, so a lot of time you're walking, your phone, you're walking, and don't forget that Google Maps wasn't as
It wasn't as
um
good as it is now.
it
Yeah.
is right now. And so you're looking at your phone, you're walking to see, and to get on your bus, you're looking, it says east, walk eastward. So you start walking in one direction. Remember the map, it shows you like your exact location, and as you're moving,
Mm, it's moving with you. Yeah.
with you, right? You see where you're going, and I'm like, okay, this is east, this is west. It was a problem. Then you get to the bus stop and it tells you stay east, and then you'll be at the bus stop waiting, thinking you are east, and then let's say by the time the bus says your bus is arriving in 2 minutes, then you're looking around. Okay, in 2 minutes you're looking around. Where's the bus coming from? Then
Mm,
sometimes you see two buses coming, one going eastwards, one going westwards, and then they come at the bus stop at the same time.
so you're
And then
not
I get
sure
on,
which one to get into.
right? So I get in the bus, and I'm like, initially, the first time I made those mistakes, I get on the bus, I assume is the right bus, and only for me to just notice that after like maybe 15 minutes of being on the bus, I realized that I don't think this is the right bus. So I've been burnt that way multiple times. So I sort of made an effort to, like, when I get on the bus, first thing I do is, before I relax, to say, because most times you're going from a buses, the rides are long, right? Remember I said the way the train system works is like, um if you are going from a densely populated area or a residential area to like a commercial area, right? It's long. So first things I do is just to make sure that I look at the map to see what is my next stop, or what is the next stop. So when I look at the map and I see the next stop, once I see that it's not my stop, like, I would come down. I will come down. It was so funny. And I'll come down and then wait for the next, and I'll have to cross the other side because
Oh
you're going
my
back.
god.
And I'll go to the other side and wait. Now imagine if you had like an appointment,
Mm. Or maybe like a
right? You
job
have to
interview
factor
or
that in. Yeah,
something.
right. You have to factor that in to your transit, to the time that it takes to get to where you're going to. So that was like a major challenge for me. Also understanding the culture and how to integrate into the community was also a like, when you say the
When you say
Canadian culture.
integrate into community, can you break that down? Like, what do you mean?
Okay. So you remember, like, you've lived in Nigeria all your life. You've had those friends you talked about. You've built those friendships all your life.
Mm.
Like, into primary school, secondary school, uni in Nigeria. All of your family, like, they're back in Nigeria. Your friends, people you are comfortable with are back home in Nigeria, right? Now coming in, yeah, it's like you have to make those friends from scratch. You have
Oh
to sort
yeah.
of choose your community. Like, if I'm looking, like, in Nigeria, right? If you say you want to um renew your driver's license, you've gone through the process, and
Yeah.
for some reason it's
Oh,
taking
you
longer
had a
than expected.
guy that you just call that you're
You know,
used
so
to.
you know
Oh
who to
my god.
call. Oh, yeah, I'm looking for
Yeah.
something like, let's say I use a Lexus, just hypothetically, and
Mm-hmm.
I need a specific type of mechanic for something in
Yeah,
Nigeria.
you
You
already know
sort of
who
know
to
who to call,
call.
like, hey, do you
Yeah.
know? I know this guy, but yeah, like, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You have to sort of plug in yourself into church, plugging yourself into, for example, you get out of school in the evening or you finish classes. There's really nothing to do. Like, first few months, there were no friends. You've not really made friends, or you're being critical of the sort of friends you make, right? So that's what I mean by community. There was no, you are basically plugging into that community. I remember you're coming to a country whereby I knew no one other than like my um secondary school friends, and they were in different phases of their life, right? At that point in time. So when I say community, that's what I mean by community. Like you are building that friendship from scratch, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
way Canada is, right, it's like you can be in Ontario, your guy can be in, you might be living in Toronto, and your
Your guy
friend might
is
be
in
living in,
Hamilton or something. Yeah.
yeah, even I think Toronto Hamilton is still fine, but like it could be in London
Yeah. You're
or
right.
same Ottawa. Sorry, same Ontario, it could be in Ottawa, right? Or it could be in up north, Barrie. But you guys are still in Ontario. Unlike Nigeria, like if someone is in Lagos, like max 1 hour or 2 hours. The only problem was traffic in Nigeria, but
Traffic. It was
technically,
just
it
traffic.
was not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. But yeah, the roads are free. You are going on the highway for hours and hours just to go see your friend, right? And then you go see your friend in Barry because he didn't drive. You are basically you have to go at a specific time because if not, you're going to miss your bus, right? So
You're
um,
right. You're right.
it wasn't really so that was just the that was to me that was the community and like also the culture, how things are done. Another challenge for me was sort of understanding the financial wisdom that
Mm,
or the financial wisdom that came with living in this part of the world. It's totally
yeah.
different from ours, right? There's a credit
There's
card
a credit
system,
system. Yeah.
there's a credit system, there's credit history, um, cash is king, but not necessarily in all situations. So trying to understand when that change for me was also a challenge because not everyone within your I would say within my age bracket sort of were that conscious of those sort of decisions, right? So
Yeah.
and there's really no one to sort of teach you or guide you through the ropes of how to like okay if you take a credit
Even till
card if you
now, this as much as like just understanding like how to be financially responsible here is still like it's still I find that it's still a thing because you still have people that like when you talk to people you still have people that for example will open a TFSA and just put
Mhm.
money in the TFSA and think you are saving. That really
uh
shocks me. As in, like you literally
yeah
just fund your TFSA. You don't invest or use the money to do anything. You just fund the account, and I'm like, I don't get what's the benefit of that.
yeah so yeah like so for example those are the things that I didn't know, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
TFSA, what is TFSA, what is RRSP,
What's
like
RRSP? Yeah,
like that's knowledge wasn't you could easily yeah there were books for you to read, there were materials for you to
yeah.
go on. Sometimes you sort of need someone that has been in around to sort of explain to
To
you
sort of explain,
like
yeah,
explain
yeah,
to you what all of these things means, for example, as a dad I had to think about life insurance,
yeah,
right? I never knew about life, like I sort of knew about life insurance, but I never knew it in the context of in Canada and how what options are
available.
available to you. What is term versus term, non-term, like different types of life insurance,
You're right.
and also like RSP. What is GICs? Like all those sort of ways of investing your money,
Yeah.
and making sure that your money is not losing value. I don't think anyone had that financially.
Even till now, it's not even then. Even till now, like if you actually don't go and look for the knowledge, like you're not.
Yes,
There's nothing
yes,
you won't
right. But
invest
now,
again.
because now you're sort of forced to do it, even like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, it was when I was about having my first daughter, my first our first daughter that the old thoughts of life insurance came into the old like it came into our thinking.
Your mind,
But then
yeah.
RRSP, for example, what is the best way to take to maximize RRSP?
The
Like, do you
benefits,
just?
yeah.
And I know a lot of people that have been burnt by just opening an RRSP through probably a friend that had been in Canada for a time, and I was just looking to just to sell to them, not necessarily
Mm,
guiding them, and just sell something to them, only for them to find out that later that they just been contributing to a fund and the fund is not growing, right?
yeah.
So many things that you didn't know about that I was sort of worried that I would need to catch up on if I'm going to live in this part of the world, right? So that was I feel like those were the major challenges. But it was, as time goes on, having been here for quite some time, I've been able to sort of navigate through those
Those
murky waters
things,
of
yeah.
decision making or financial decision making. And I feel like at this point, I'm at the point where I won't say I'm an expert, but I can make. I've been able to make some very rewarding financial decisions
Decisions,
over
yeah.
time. Yeah, over the years.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that because it's definitely something that you have to go out of, and everybody's situation is unique. Like you need to go and find out what works because your friend did it this way doesn't mean that's the best way for you to do it. Yeah, so you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. So the next thing I want to talk about is like you finished school, like getting into the job market and navigating that. How was that for you? Like finding like did you have to work like I know I find that a lot of people that came even till now, to be fair, I can't even say that came earlier, even till now, like people struggle with like, oh, you probably need to do like a, like for lack of a better word, like an odd job
Mhm.
till you finally find like a proper career path. Like what was that like for you?
So, as far back as 2015, 2016, I feel, and I might be wrong, and
Yeah.
anyone listening to can might feel offended, but I feel like if you had gone through the education path, it was sort of, I would say, it was sort of easier to get in or integrate into the job market, because when you go to school had like career development programs. They prep you for interviews. They took you to the process of writing your resumes, how to write your resumes, how to
Mm,
prepare for interviews. So I felt like we were guided that way. So for example, I got my first job before I graduated, before I finished my second program.
program. Mm,
Yeah. Um, it was just like there was a job fair, right? Most colleges then, I don't know if they still do that now, but they organize job fairs where employers will come and you hand out your resumes. It's like you have like different resumes. You go in, you talk to those recruiters, and like from there you get an interview. And also like the way the education system here works is like professors or lecturers, as we call them in Nigeria. Not all of them are full-time lecturers, right? Some of them are like their full-time job is like they are managers of or captains of industries, right? And they're just doing just teach part-time. So if you add a professor, a lecturer that was in a field that they were actively recruiting, then if they would tell you that, hey, somebody will be coming from XYZ company and they'll be recruiting you, do you want to speak to them? And some of those lecturers sort of they had a way of, if you were close to them, they will tell you these opportunities, and sometimes they tell it to the entire class, like, hey, this XYZ this company is coming. Say for
yeah.
example, um one of the programs I took, they had a collaboration with Rogers, and so the professor was working in Rogers. The lab in school was basically equipped by Rogers, right? Because Rogers wanted them to train or teach students and prepare them for industry, so that as you're leaving college, you are basically ready for
To
the real
join
world,
them,
because
yeah.
to join them. So then they now come back to the job fairs to recruit. So for me, I sort of had that opportunity of attending a job fair and getting a job prior to finishing. But then it wasn't your dream job. I think the
Yeah.
pay for that job was less than $36,000 a year at that point in
Wow.
time. But it was okay to start life, to pay rent. Rent was about $450, between $350 and $500, between 350 and 550.
For rent.
Um, yes, like a room in a house as at that time. So if you look at the
Wow.
context,
That's so if you
okay,
look back now, I don't even think you can find that kind of
nah,
price.
not again. Like, so like it was very okay then, and then I think that was my first job.
Mm,
And then while I was doing that job, it was more as I was more like a technician there, where I was involved with installing of what you call DAS systems, distributed antenna systems, in malls, hospitals, just to boost signals.
mm,
And I did that for like I think about
So
six
wait, not to
months.
digress, like when you came to school here, what was your major? Like what were you studying? Was this engineering?
I did project management and then wireless telecommunication.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So now I can see why. I just wanted to understand how it relates to like you be working as a technician. Okay, yeah.
yeah, and
Got
also
it.
I had my background as I studied engineering, computer
Engine.
engineering
Okay,
in
okay, okay,
school,
okay.
and
So it's kind of
I
like working in your field.
field, yeah. I also did like NYC and IT, in the tech space, so
Okay,
like
okay.
in the L desk field or customer service, right? However they call it these days. So that was my foray into like my professional path, right? But then I think the second job was sort of. I think I got the second job also while I was still having this job. I remember when I was in school, I was always like, I think when I was doing my second program, I was just from the experience I got from the first year, I sort of knew that you need to key into applying. So applying for jobs not just when you get out of school, but before you get out of school. So there was
Mm,
this um, company I applied to while I was in school, doing my second program, and I got to the interview, and I interviewed with HR, and then HR asked, "Oh, are you ready? When are you ready to start?" And I was like, "I'm ready to start in September." And she was like, "Oh, we want someone that's going to start now." And then she was like, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to keep your resume, but give me a shout when you are
when
done
you're
with
ready.
your program, right?" So while I was done with my second program, I reached out and she got me in contact with the hiring manager. I did the interview, and then that's how I got my second job. So it was pretty. I'll say that I had it sort of easy because from the career development in school, through job fairs, and then you know sort of looking for knowing how to apply for these jobs and doing it on your own, sort of helped me
Yeah.
break into the job market quite easy. Though there are stories of for another day for the different situations, or when you go for
No,
interviews.
I
Like,
know that absolutely, but like what I'm taking for your story, because I had another episode with somebody that went through school, and he
mhm,
also had the same experience about like some of your lecturers have like they do other things apart from be professors or be
yeah,
lecturers or be tutors, however you
mhm,
want to say it, and that you just need to key into those. Like you must be able to identify when you see somebody that can potentially, yeah. So I guess like the lesson for me, the lesson I'm picking out from this is like if you're in school, you just need to key into that, because you
mhm.
never really know where your next job opportunity or your first job opportunity will come from.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I would say, to use this in our own terms, the potential to spot your helper
To spot
is very.
what what
Yeah,
now
it's
real
sort
to
of like,
spot your helper, yes, you need to
that
really,
it's going to come
yeah.
from anywhere, right? It could be from anywhere. It could
Mm,
be your network, it could be your friends, it could be, or like like that's one thing I would tell people is like you have to have your ears on ground and
yeah.
being able to spot opportunities when they are
When they present
presented to
themselves,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually that's amazing. Even me myself, I'm taking that the potential to like, yeah, I'm like yes. So now let's now talk about what has this question is just this just question just came to my head now. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking of how to word it very well so you understand what I'm trying to ask. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering like what has like the trajectory of your career been over the past 10 years? Like, do you feel like working here you had to go back and see, because I know when you first came, like till now there has been a lot of new technologies and things like that, and I
Yeah.
find that people
Mhm.
always say things like, oh, you need to keep your ears on the ground to like really be sensitive to those things to know when things are changing. Do you understand? Say for example you're working
Yeah.
in a company that maybe they were using Excel for as their CRM before, now they are CRM tools. You need to be aware of those things and go and learn it so you don't kind of like price yourself out of the markets. I don't know if you understand
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah. Understand,
Yeah, so
100%.
that's just what I'm
So
just
I would
trying to ask, like, how were you able to do all of that, and like, what's the trajectory of your career been?
Yeah, so I will answer that with a quote that says, "When the music changes, so does the dance change."
Mm,
Right,
absolutely.
meaning that you have to always adapt to new environments. Um, I'm in the IT space or the IT industry. Things change. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we are at cutting edge, but I would say bleeding edge these days, right? Because things change. As one day you go to bed knowing this, tomorrow you wake up and it has changed, right? The new technology, new
Yeah.
architecture, new models, new protocols. So I started as, my first. I said, remember, I said the first was job was out of college was as a technician,
Mm.
where I was installing antennas for a company in malls and hospitals, and we test those antennas. We test like the return loss to see how much signal the antenna will lose when it receives power from the base station.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So and then my next job was with a um hardware manufacturer that was in the video industry, where they make different like video routers, audio routers, video and audio mixers, SDV, software defined video networking gears. And my role was just to, it's just basically hardware, right? So when a customer purchases a set of gear, we would configure it in the factory,
Mm.
and then we ship it out to them, and then they fly you out as an engineer to go in and commission um those gears before it goes into production. And that commission just involves you flying over with a sheet of check,
Yeah.
and then they power it. If they power it on, for example, that company, if you power on those gears without an engineer from them, you are voiding warranty, right? So that was the role. But then I realized that that was mostly hardware. And if you can see, like those first two jobs were focused on more of hardware. And I kind of realized that the world was moving from
Hard to
hardware
software.
focused on software
Mm.
focused. And if you know today, software is king. For every hardware to work, it needs
You need
software.
a software.
So I sort of was looking for an opportunity to pivot into like software engineering, but I didn't know how, right? And between my second job and my third job, there was the opportunity to sort of switch. So I got to work for a startup, and that was my foray into software engineering. Get my um, get that experience because I already knew hardware. I've already been working with operating systems. I kind of knew how to sort of the different layers or the different abstract layers within the hardware and the software. So I got the knowledge, but then the next thing was, okay, what is the next big thing? And that's one thing you always have to ask yourself, as you go through this journey in Canada, is like you need to always think about the next big thing
Yeah.
within your industry, and you have to always pay attention to the next big thing. So there was a time cloud computing was like the next big thing, cybersecurity is like the next big thing, AI
Right
now
now
is
is
like the
AI.
next big
Yeah.
price, data engineering, data analysis, and all of that. So being able to key to those moments and knowing when to sort of switch. So for me, the switch came in when I realized that, okay, first of all, I was with this company for close to 6 years or thereabouts. Um, I had already changed career. I started as like a support engineer. I have moved into like sales engineering, and I've been able to sort of see that, okay, I really know how to sell, but I need to go sell because it was a startup. And the way, if you've worked in a startup before, it's like grind.
Yeah.
There's really no structure. Um, and the opportunity came is like, okay, the next big thing is cybersecurity. How do you need to break into the cybersecurity space? So knowing all of this, I sort of prepped myself for that journey into cybersecurity, and then I was able to break and land myself a job in cybersecurity space, and that's where I am right now. So starting from, you know, straight out of college as a technician, and then you move to like a service engineer, and then now I'm like a solutions engineer with my current company. That has been the trajectory for me. But at every point in time, I've always asked myself, what is the next big thing?
Mm.
And as it
I
applies
love
to my
I
career.
love that you said that, and I'll tell you why. Because I find that, well, I'm not going to generalize. I'm going to speak for myself. Like, when you find, say for example, I remember when I first came into Canada, I also was working as like I was selling softwares basically. That was
Yeah.
going well, but then it became very, it was within a what do you call it? It was within a startup as well. But again, it
Mhm.
became very dogged. It became very, the environment became very grind to the
Yeah.
extent
Just
that
start up.
for you to get paid, like you are depending more on commissions, not your base salary. Like, and you really can't control
Mm.
those things, right? So again, it made me now
And
think, what else do, like, I need to move to the next big thing. So I moved from doing that
yeah,
to like moving into more customer success. Okay, now they've bought the software. What I need to do is to put it in plain
onboard
terms,
them,
like
manage them.
managing those books of accounts, like kind of like continuing to communicate the value of the software to the customer and things like that. And now I'm already trying to move to something else again. But then I just feel like a lot of times, a lot of us get, like, the reason I ask this question is people tend to get lost in the source. Like, fine, you found this thing
Yes.
and you forget yourself there, not knowing that, especially within technology, like, my guy, the world is moving. You can't just, do you understand? So
You can't afford. Yeah.
I'm
You
actually
can't
really,
afford to stay.
what did you say?
I say you can't afford
Yeah,
to
you
stay
can't yeah,
stagnant.
I think that's what it is. You can't afford to be complacent and just let things happen and pass you by. Yeah, so I love that because I didn't even know that you had transitioned into cybersecurity. I was actually really shocked when you said that. I was like, oh, sin.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like my second going on third year. And you know what you said about, I was alluding to the fact of what you said earlier on, that when you with this with when you're in this particular, for example, your previous role where you was like commission based. So for
Yeah.
me, previous startup, I had started from like support. I built a support team, and then from there moved into sales because I like selling,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when I moved into sales, because it was a startup, it felt like product market fit wasn't there.
Exactly.
So it was sort of difficult to land new customers, and
Mm.
even already existing customers, it was difficult to land and expand. We already landed, but we couldn't expand beyond what we were already selling. And remember, I said that, or you also said you were in sales. If you're in sales, a percentage of your commission of your pay
Comes
is
from
tied to
commission,
commission,
yeah.
right? And if you're not selling, there's no
There's no
commission
commission, yeah.
to be,
So there's no
right.
money
So that
basically.
was, there's no money. So you're just stuck with your base. And if you want to make more money, it's either you go to a place and where you are selling, where the product sells itself, right? And the perfect example of that is cybersecurity today.
Yeah.
It's like cybersecurity sells itself. Don't If you don't secure yourself, you will learn the hard way,
Yeah.
right? Either by cyber attack or a DDoS attack, one way or the
Mm.
other. You would. So um, when companies look at how much they're going to lose as to spending the IT spend to set up your cybersecurity and make sure that everything is secure versus just leaving things open and having to pay like ransom or having to deal with a ransomware. Um, it's quite, um, I would say, it's the price you pay is
It's
quite
quite
steep,
steep,
and
yeah.
so yeah, so customers are sort of forced to get into get updated with their cybersecurity architecture today, and that's one of the reasons why I sort of
Pivoted,
um,
yeah.
segued into
Yeah.
cybersecurity.
Maybe before next year now, you tell me you're now doing AI now. You two, you pivoted. Let's wait
You
and
have to
see.
always be, you always have to move.
Yeah.
Like I think I spoke to my friend recently when he was asking me about, well, what is the next big thing, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like the next big thing, to me, because then when he was trying to get into IT and it was like, well, what do you? I was like, bro, go and do cloud security. This was like prior to the like 2018. I was like, go do cloud computing. Go learn about any of those either AWS or GCP or
Mm.
whatever. And like, I was like, oh, why did you say so? I'm like, because I'm there right now, and I feel like that's the next big thing. Lo and behold, pandemic. During the pandemic, like I feel like the number of cloud engineers that got roles during the pandemic kind of
Kind of,
skyrocketed
yeah.
because a lot of
It did.
companies remote, and yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, it's asking me, and I'm like, maybe prompt engineering is going to be the next big thing because everyone, they are like every IT company has their own LLMs, right? Their own large language models, and being able to craft prompts to be able to interact with all of these LLMs, I feel like will be the next big thing.
Mm.
But I do know that whatever the big thing is, AI
AI
is
is
going to
going to
play a
be
very big role.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So I love now we're going to end our career talk there. And I just want to ask you briefly about like I know you're a dad and you're a husband and all of that.
Hmm.
So just to talk quickly, what's family life like for you in Canada? Like what is it? Is it tough being a dad, having to work so hard to also provide for your family and all of that? Like what's family life like for you?
Um, that's a loaded
Very
question.
loaded, I know.
I wouldn't say that family life is tough. The only reason why I would say it's tough is because I've not done this before,
Mm,
and I'm really just going off of the blueprint that our parents laid out for us,
yeah.
right? But then we're trying to do better because you feel like, some of us feel like our parents could have done better, and we're basically learning from that mistake and trying to do things differently. The only challenge I would say facing is like, compared to when you're in Nigeria, you sort of you don't have as much help
Yeah.
as you would need, and so you have to make the effort to be, or you have to be intentional about family, right? um so why do you say you have to be intentional? Like earlier in the year, I was doing 2 gigs, but then I realized that the time I was spending with my daughter was sort of limited. It's like I get off by 9. She goes to daycare from 9 to like 5.
Mm,
Then because I'm doing 2 jobs, when I get off by 5, I'm not really off by 5. So when I just go to pick her up, bring her home, um, settle her, like give her food to eat.
mm.
But then just because I want to go back to eat, sorry, I want to go back to
To
working,
work, yeah.
I put on cartoon for her, or put on something for her to watch. I don't think it's like I'm outsourcing that family time, that bonding time
Mm,
to Pepper or Paw Patrol or whatever it is that
yeah.
she's at a point in time. So I needed to scale back and be intentional about it. It's like, and I really noticed, and I'm sure you're a mom too. You notice like I feel like there's no shortcut into
There's
it.
no
You have
mm-mm.
to either you're
Either
in
you're
or
in
you're
or you're
out.
out, yeah.
You can't do it haphazardly to say, if you really want, and you can only try your best, but if you really want the best for your kids, you have to really spend time with them, to nurture them,
Yeah.
to guide them well, and it comes from spending time with them.
Yeah. To get to
So if you don't
even know
spend time,
them, yeah, if you don't spend time,
know
yeah.
them, right, know their strengths, and
Yeah.
for example, I will give you a very good example. So whenever I want to distract my daughter, and maybe I'm busy and I want her to also be busy, I could tell her to say, I could send her around, say, can you go upstairs, go look for the red dress with a pink polka dot on it. Obviously, nothing like that exists, right? And then she would go upstairs and she
She's
was,
searching and
all of that
searching.
is just for me, just to buy myself time, right? And then one day I just realized that I told her that, hey, go upstairs. She has a doll called Anna. I'm like, go get Anna. Anna is somewhere. Go do this. And the next thing my daughter says is, come with me. Let's go together, Dada. Right?
Mm,
And I was sort of quick to just like, you just go, don't worry. I'm like, come on. Why?
yeah.
Just for the sake of few dollars or few.
Yeah.
And they grow up so fast that
Yeah.
you're gonna miss moments if you're not paying attention. It's
Yeah.
like one moment you see your daughter crawling, another moment she's
She's
walking, another
running.
moment
Yeah.
she's running, then she's speaking, and next moment she's using vocabularies that I never used at that age. It's like I want to be able to pay attention to say, oh, this is your strength. I want to start off nurture that strength or
Mm,
nurture this.
I love
So
that.
you have to be
Yeah.
intentional about it,
Wow.
and I
I love
I,
that
I
so
pay
much.
attention to that as my so many mistakes I feel like my parents made. Not that they made the
Yeah.
mistakes intentionally.
Mm,
Right? It's a mistake, right? But I feel like I can do better,
yeah.
and so I'm quite intentional. Okay, we want you to learn how to write. What do you need to learn how to write? I'm watching videos on how to
Teach a
teach your
child
child
how
how
to
to write.
write.
What games you can introduce to them. So and like that sort of forced me to sort of research on how early childhood education, how to get them to do things in certain ways, because you have to be patient with them. I When I was doing those two jobs, I wasn't paying attention to all of those.
Yeah.
And as I said, you have to be intentional about it. So there are specific toys that she has that are geared towards her education, geared towards her
Learning.
learning how to write, learning how to speak, learning how to read. So intentional. And also the part I mentioned about not getting help is the fact that, as you know, there is really no help other than daycare, right? If you're lucky enough to have family around, yeah, I do have my sister that lives like 10 minutes away from
Mm,
my place. I have the luxury of going to drop my sister, my
your daughter
daughter
with
at
her.
my
Yeah.
sister's place. Then you have to always realize too that she also has her own life to live. She has three kids she also has to worry about.
Yeah.
So we have to be considerate and not selfish when we are
Looking for help here.
trying
Yeah. You're right. You're
looking
right.
for help, right? So um but then I would say it's been a really, 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 really interesting journey. And one thing I would just say is, as parents, we are all winging it. We're all trying our best to be the best version of our parents, and also do not, when they say if you stay into the what's that saying, like, if you stay into the abyss, abyss will step back at you. So
Mm.
basically, if you are trying your best not to be like your parents, funny enough, you find
You
yourself
end up being
being
exactly like them.
exactly like them, right? So um I'm just trying to just do things differently, be patient, pay attention, to the kids, and
Yeah.
try to try to be intentional, even with my partner, right, or with my wife. Like, be intentional about date nights.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy to just get sucked into the hustle and bustle of the 9 to 5, but then you have to be intentional about date nights, about going out, about listening to each other. um um just that's how I would describe it. Is like, family life has been good, but also um
It takes a lot of
has been challenging.
intentionality. Yeah.
It takes a lot of,
Yeah.
intentionality.
As with
Takes a lot of
anything, even your
commitment.
career, it's okay to sit back and make notes. Oh, I want to be this and that. But if you don't put in the work, nobody's going to hand it to
No,
you. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I love that. I love that. So we're coming to the end of the podcast. I just have two more questions for you. And this one, me, I even want to take notes. This one. If you are going to advise somebody like on their own relocation journey, either they are still thinking of when to move, all of that. Like, what would be one solid advice you give to somebody?
Um, Research is key. So you research as much as you can.
Mm,
If you are moving to a new city, you research as much as the city. Do not um, try to stay connected to your roots, right? If you do have network of friends, you can um, always bank on. Take that help. Reach out to them. Um, I would also say that patience is key.
yeah.
You know, my mom always uses she uses this adage in Yoruba that says, "Ma wo ago alago shishe,"
Mm,
meaning that do not look at somebody else's time while you're working. We are all running on different time. As I used to say, we're all running this life's race differently. I could be on lap one, you could be on lap 10.
yeah.
If I'm comparing myself to you on lap 10,
Wasting your time.
I'm not doing myself, I'm doing myself a disservice, right?
Mm,
Your neighbor can be on lap zero, right? But then it could be on lap zero with zero obstacles. Whereas when you were doing your lap zero, you had lots and lots of obstacles just because maybe you didn't get to key into some of the resources, or you didn't have access to the information that they do have now.
yeah.
So I would say patience is key. Do not compare. Don't compare yourself to, like, this person came in 3 years and they already have a job. Why couldn't I have a job? Like, it's going to take a toll on your mental health.
Yeah.
Um, and don't, in the process of trying to make up for lost times, because I tell people, as an immigrant, when you come in here, you lose at least minimum to 2 to 5 years shaved off of it. Imagine if you had 10 years of work experience
Yeah.
in Nigeria and you move into Canada. Trust me, you are shaving off between 2 to 5 years of that years of experience. because they will tell you you need to have the
North
Canadian
American
culture,
experience.
the
Yeah.
Canadian way, blah blah, the Canadian experience,
Mm,
right? Um, so you have to really be patient and be intentional about your career, your journey. Um, Reach out to. So I say uh, keep strong ties to your roots and your friends. Try to reach out as much as possible, and sometimes don't. It's easy to say, I reached out to this guy the other time, and you should be the one to reach out to me. Man, you're the one that needs help.
mm,
Reach out to as much as you can until they tell you are disturbing them,
exactly.
right? And
Because half
yeah,
the
that
time,
would be
all those
what I would
things are
say.
in your head. The person is probably not even thinking about that.
Yeah, right. Everyone is dealing with one thing or the other. So, um, and that's why I try to be as accessible to my friends as possible, especially those that just moving to Canada. Because when I moved in, I had no support
Yeah.
other than a family friend or my mom's friend that was very, very vital to sort of making sure that I was comfortable in Canada. But then I didn't really have much like friends I could reach out to. Say, for example, I'm trying to rent a place and probably my income is not enough for that place. I know I can afford it, but the landlord's probably, maybe I'm making 36,000 and the landlord is looking for someone that makes 50,000, right? I should be able to reach out to my friend to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? How do I go about
Yeah.
it? I never had that sort of leeway when I came. So I try my best as possible um, to be that lending out to my friends or people that are just coming here to sort of help them to settle in, to help them to be as comfortable as
As
possible
possible. Yeah.
and to get started in this journey as fast as
I
they
can
can.
testify you to that because I remember when we first came and we were struggling to get a house, you kind of like, what did you do again? You wrote like was it a recommendation or something? Do you remember? Like to or
Yeah,
you no, you were willing to co-sign our lease or something funny like that. I
yeah,
remember that.
finally,
Yeah, like
provide,
yeah, when we're
provide the
yeah.
credit report or credit
Yeah, and
history.
provide. Oh yeah, that's true. You gave us all your documents, your space stop, all of that. Yeah, yeah. So I can testify.
Yeah. So those are the kind of
Tofa
things
is a
that
real G.
I would,
Yeah,
those are the kind of things that is definitely like, in my time, I never
like
really
you
had
never
that
had that. Yeah,
opportunity for people to say, hey, take this, whatever it is you need, take this document, go. There's no, like, I never had anyone that trusted me that much,
yeah.
right? So, and I try to be that for people that are coming in today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And we've come to the end of the podcast. Hope people have been able to learn because even me personally, like I said, me, I like talking to you because he just gives, just calm down and learn from what he's saying.
Yeah,
Like, I really, really always
patience
enjoy our conversations. Like, it's
is my pleasure, and thank you for always for having me on the podcast and letting me share my story. And I hope that the audience and everyone listening sort of gleans from what we've shared today and are able to sort of pick up themselves wherever they find themselves right now and believe. One thing I always tell people with Canada is, if you see Ontario, the plate number says yours to discover,
yeah,
right? That's what it says. And Canada is, if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. So if you can dream, you can achieve. And that has always been my mantra. With everything I lay my hands
mm,
on, is like, if I believe first that I can do it, and then I go into it. Um, so just keep keep pushing. There's definitely light
at the end
at
of
the
the
end of the
tunnel.
tunnel.
Mm. Like, you've dropped so many gems from only winners should write history. Like you, from beginning to end, you've dropped serious gems for us. Thank you so much, Topa. Thank you very much. Wow, that was such a lovely story. Like the name says, full circle. This is truly a full circle moment. I feel like this last story kind of brings everything together. And I hope you've enjoyed listening to Our Greener Pastures. And hopefully, we should be back for season 2 soon. But in the meantime, there's a link in the bio, a Google form. If you feel like you have an interesting relocation story to share, or you know anybody that has an interesting story to share, please fill the form. Follow us on social media because we're going to keep posting there and keeping you updated when our new season will be out. Thank you, everyone, to the little community we've managed to build here, our download gang, and all of that. Thank you so much, everyone, and bye.